Hello. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. What time is it? It's a little bit after 10 o'clock. It looks like this stream is ending up being around 10 o'clock every day. Interesting. Maybe I can start scheduling it. I don't know. If I schedule this stream, could be a problem. Oh, yeah. Okay. I can always depend on Twitch spamming. Someone spamming on Twitch. It's not a very reputable place. Anyway, streaming there anyways. Okay, let's get into it. Today is Thursday, June 25th. It's my dad's birthday. Happy birthday, Dad. I'll be calling you a little bit later. Yeah, pretty awesome. Dad's birthday. Fantastic. Like I said, 10, 11 in the morning. I'm still working on this painting. This is, oh my gosh, this is like, this is 5th or 6th day on this painting? Yeah, today is the 7th day. Yesterday was the 6th day. Today's the 7th. Man, it's taken me a whole week to work on this painting. That's usually, yeah, I usually don't spend that long. I don't feel bad about it either because I tend to, as I'm moving around getting ready here, look at my big head in the way, getting my napkins that are down underneath this little table that I have. I usually don't spend 7 days on a painting. I usually spend a lot less time on a painting. And that's okay. Sometimes, the paintings just need more work, and a lot of times when they take too long, quote unquote, too long, whatever that means, right? Whenever you feel like they're taking too long, it's because, hey, you've run into something here that is possibly going to give you an idea or teach you something. You're going to go a little bit further. Reminds me of Mastery by George Leonard. Fantastic book. Talking all about that plateau that we have. We're on this kind of plateau, then all of a sudden we have this big jump, and then we plateau for a bit. Big jump in skill. Just keep going. Keep sitting on that plateau. And usually when it's the hardest, we're really struggling with something, spending a lot more time on it, that's where we're going to expect that big jump in skill afterwards. So it's good I'm spending that much time on this painting. That's fine. I'm okay with it. Totally good. Now, I wanted to talk today about galleries, art galleries, and my opinions. I'm a very opinionated person, as we all are. We all have opinions. I like to say opinions are like buttholes. They all stink. I don't know. That's probably dumb. Sorry. I apologize for that comment. Just stop the stream right now. But before I get into art galleries, let's address this painting right now of what I'm going to be working on with it. I stopped in this area, these little folds here, and I tried to add some structure to them. I don't mind them too much today. Not too bad. Yesterday I was really I was denigrating those folds. Those folds probably feel really bad right now because I was, talking to them in a very, negative way. But now it's probably okay. They're probably, you should feel better, folds. I think you're looking pretty good. I think you have enough structure to you. I maybe want to remove that lighter value that's there, though, because I'm feeling a pull. Feelings are always important in this. I'm feeling this pull of interest away from the hand, away from my center of interest up here. I don't think it's a really great pull, but it's creating this kind of triangle effect. And I'm definitely not Frank Frazetta. I can't do the triangle composition very well. I haven't done that, so And even this here, see, there's like a bit of a confusion that's happening, right? If I were to look at this composition in a very simplistic way, like looking at it in this idea of, what the major idea is, I can do it here. Let's say that this is our paper, right? And the most important thing is like right here. That's the hand with some saturation all right there. But then we have this shoulder that's kind of taking a bit of that interest away as well. And then we have a bit of this fabric showing back there that's taking a little bit of interest. And then some of these folds is kind of taking a bit of interest. And then these folds there are taking interest. And maybe, the face will have a little bit of interest just very lightly there. And maybe the top of the head as well. I want to fix the top of the head. I think that hair needs to go up a little bit further, just a tiny bit. It looks like, there should be a skull that goes way up, but it gets chopped off. So I need to fix that. But all this different interest that's happening in areas. And when you describe it that simply, it's like, it's a confusion of stuff everywhere, right? But if we come in here and we really begin to remove some interest, like let's move, what I was talking about, this little area here. Can't really remove it. There you go. That's better. Maybe, I love those folds, so I'll keep that. I can definitely remove some interest there. So lighten that up a lot, or darken it up a lot so it pushes back, right? And what we get when we kind of pull those back and, darken it up, make it more of the background, less high contrast in those areas, especially this arm compared to that background. You see that really sharp edge. It's going to be really sharp because we have light value, dark value, like the darkest dark, the lightest light, and then the darkest dark. It's like this stripe that's going on. That's really taking a lot of this interest away. Now, if we remove those two by bringing those value ranges closer together, darkening things up, we get more of a composition that is doing this thing. See how dynamic that is? Removing through this shoulder up into the hand and then to the face. It becomes this kind of dynamic, like horizontal, not horizontal. Oh my gosh, dynamic angle that's happening. So let's do that. That would solve a couple things. It will help the composition a bunch. I'm not really, I was kind of iffy about, these folds here being a little bit Play-Doh-like and not having enough structure. So if I darken that up, push it back, that's less that I have to worry about. And then this one here, the same thing. Yeah, and when we look at the reference, I could be pretty close to the reference. It's okay. Pretty close. But we don't have to be so into the reference. Honestly, it doesn't have to be exactly what the reference is. I mean, if I really wanted to push this as my focal point, if I was brave enough, I don't have the bravery on some of my paintings yet, but I could have brought that whole background into the entirety of the face here, remove the lips, the eye, most of the brow, most of the head, even the neck and the chin, all of that gone, and just a nose there. That would have been brave and interesting. But we're so afraid sometimes, afraid to do that. Okay, but I'm going to leave it how it is. I'm going to fix that hair, bring it up just a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is darken these up. So darken that up, fix the hair, and then go back into my focal point, soften those fingers out, get some different values and halftones in there, and then it'll probably be finished. And while I'm doing all that, I'm going to talk about galleries, my opinions on art galleries. Because I think it's important when we become artists, what is the very first thing that our parents talk to us about, or people that are around us, Are you making any money from that? It's usually, number one. And I made that too warm with red. I want grays. Why do I want gray? Why do I want gray in these two areas? I want gray, maybe a little bit of yellow ochre to bring in a little bit of kind of greenish color. It's a separation away from all the figure, all the skin, right? And a hue difference. And gray is also something that we don't look at as being very attractive to the eye. So you push it back with gray. Yeah. So let's look at this. But usually when we first start out, I'm kind of, I always go back and forth, guys. Go back and forth with, everything that there is about. Oh, looks like I got a new follower. That's what that sound was. Thank you for following on Twitch. I do like Twitch as far as streaming is concerned. They do a lot of cool things with streaming. But when we're first starting out with painting, the very first thing that our friends ask us is like, well, okay, so how are you going to make money from that? When we've decided this is going to be what I do because I love it, that's like kind of the next thing that happens. How can I actually make this viable so I can support myself and maybe a family on it? And it's a very difficult question to answer. It is not easy. It is not easy at all. I was talking to some other artists on stream several days ago, and this topic came up. And the one thing I like to tell artists and people is, at least for me, I have determined within myself that, I have really no other choice. Throughout my entire life, I've been a person that has continually been creative. From a very young age, I've always drawn, I've always done artwork, and it's always been something that I need to do. Like, I don't even think about it. And then eventually, like, I could be on, some kind of island somewhere with nothing around me, and I'd pick up a stick and start drawing on something. Like, it would happen. I had a job for years that was nothing but web development, but what I loved about it was I could code something, I could work in code, and then it would make visual cool stuff happen on the computer or on the web page. And I loved that. I loved like the code to visual transference that happened. Like, oh, look, this is nothing but text formulated in a certain way, and it makes this really cool thing happen. Look how cool that is. So it's more like design than anything. So I will always do it. So the choice for me is a definite, like it will happen. Like, I have not much of a choice, but that choice, I like to tell other people, is a hard choice. We have chosen this route, and with the current, I guess, climate, what do you want to say, with how, people buy stuff or whatever, and consumerism and all that kind of stuff, it's hard. These paintings are a luxury item. And so you're going into this area where you're trying to sell a luxury item. And not only that, you have zero name to yourself. You don't know a lot of people. You're not so good at the very beginning. You're trying to get better at this art thing. And you're trying to tell people, hey, I know I suck and you don't know me, but would you buy something? Will you give me money for it? And it's difficult. Yeah, see, brought that down right away. Like, it's there, it says fold, but it doesn't say it so much, that it's distracting. So done. I'm happy with that. I love that it's brushwork. Am I happy with that brushwork? Maybe something a little bit lighter that indicates a different angle. Lighter with a little bit of yellow. But understanding right away that you're making a choice to choose a harder path in life. And family and friends, people that love you, will always say, no, take a route that's a definite, that you will definitely find wealth in and be able to support yourself because they want to protect you. They love you, but they'll also keep you too safe in a lot of ways. And when I feel like when we make this conscious decision where we say, yeah, this is the harder route, it's definitely not as easy as, the job that I can get, down the street at some retail place or whatever. But it's something that we love. Hey, Doobie, I choose a design career to make money. I'm done with that and paid full time and paint full time for myself. Fantastic. Yeah, there's a bunch of other ways to do it. Like I had a job that I enjoyed doing design in, and then art was on the side. And then eventually saved up a lot of money and decided, you know what, I'm going to try this full time thing. And I'm very happy, just being able to do this every single day, and hustle and all the problems that I face within, that we'll have within this art thing. Like people aren't buying stuff or trying to deal with getting things off the ground. All of the problems that we'll have with this are a lot easier because at least, it's not problems based on a job that, I'm not very interested in, right? It's problems that are based in this area that I love. That there's multiple ways of going about it. But understanding that it is a harder route to choose this art thing, okay? But even though it's harder, it is more fulfilling. It is definitely something that can make you happier and feel more fulfilled in your life. I want to get some of this gray that's in the background. The background is just ivory black and white. It's the only like pure gray on the canvas. I need to get that value right on. And I'm going to make this area of fabric smaller as well as darker to really push it back. It doesn't need to be that big. Actually, I think I had it larger than it needed to be compared to the photo anyways. And we're going to lose some edges in some places here. We're going to push it back like I was talking about at the beginning, really centralizing this composition here into this diagonal, softening everything in this area so it doesn't grab a lot of attention and darkening things up. So that's number one when we're talking about galleries and getting your artwork out there. Understanding that it is a hard route and, talking to your family and people that, push you in different directions and tell them, hey, no, this is what I want to do. Yeah, I am taking a more difficult route, a more fulfilling route, and happiness is my goal. Another part of that, especially when you go into galleries, when you're talking about selling your work, is defining what enough means to you, like enough money, right? What is enough? I always love the saying, if you keep searching for more, you'll never have enough. But if you get enough, you'll never need more. And it's so true. Like if you define for yourself that all I need is $2,000 a month to pay all of my bills, to take care of, everything that I need, my art supplies, blah, 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 and I can be happy with that, then you're good. You're golden. That's your, where you're at. And then what you can do with that, once you define what enough looks like for you, and, let me sidetrack that just for a second. If you're an artist and you say enough is, a big house on the beach and Lamborghini and, eating out all the time and all this, lots of expenditure, like that's my enough, you're going to be hurting. Okay. You're not going to find that. Maybe it may be very difficult to do that. There's artists that have done it, but it's very few in between. So when we choose this life, it's hard. It's difficult. We're definitely not saying we're going to be making a ton of money, but defining what feels great for us, what's enough for us, I think is super important. That will put us into this mindset, this kind of practical mindset to begin to understand, okay, if I need this, if I need X amount of money per month. Okay, this brush is definitely dying. Keep getting these little hairs coming out. If I need X, now I can look at my artwork in a more practical way and say, I need to sell this many paintings. I need to get this many people on Patreon. I need to, have this level of production, because that's a big part of it. Like, doing the work is a big part of it. And if you set that too high and it becomes very different from reality, then it's going to be a problem. And this is all part of gallery stuff as well. I mean, getting this straight, because if you're thinking about moving into a gallery, this is your business plan that I'm talking about. Basic business plan. I need this to survive. How can I turn this art thing that I do into money? And at no point in this conversation am I going to talk to you about, well, you need to change up your artwork so it fits the audience. It's getting close on this one. Never listen to me. Listen to me, people out there. Unless you're okay with it. I'm always going to have a caveat and stuff, but never change who you are to meet the audience. If you do that, you're going to end up just like crappy AI generated junk slop that's out there. At the very beginning, it was really interesting. It was like an alien from a different planet. It was new images we've never seen before, and it was really cool. And then we get into where people are asking for all of this, and the big companies will give you exactly what you want. And it all turns into just nothing but uninteresting, not new, derivative slop. So if we go into this like art thing, like if we walk into a gallery and we say, hey, this gallery does nothing but landscapes. I hate landscapes, but I'm going to paint landscapes. And they're going to be very bright, right? You're just like anybody else, right? I mean, you're not like, who are you? I mean, like, no one's going to know you different from anyone else. And then on a practical sense, when we look at, this kind of understanding, because a lot of people will say this, well, you need to do landscapes and still lifes because that's what everybody wants to buy. In a practical sense, that does make sense because, you're in a bigger market and people are more likely to hang on their wall landscapes and still lifes. But you're also in a very inundated market with 1 million artists. You have to differentiate yourself in that way as well. So you're like, oh, this is what I need to do. But now you're just into another business problem, right? And you hate it because you're not doing what you love. If you do what you love, I don't care what job it is. I feel very strongly about this, so I'm going to be very specific. If you do what you love, you're going to do it well. You're going to enjoy it so much that you will stay up late nights. You'll do daily art for the rest of your life like I'm doing because I love it so much. You will do the hard work and people will begin to notice. But if you do something, like if you make a choice to do something derivative that's just out there because you think it's a better market and it's going to be easier sales and things, and you dislike it, you're not going to like what you're doing. It's going to turn into a job when you wake up every morning and you're going to, I got to get to my artwork, my stupid painting. I got to do that stupid commission of a dog portrait that I don't want to do. Or I got to do this stupid bright landscape. I'm sick of this. And the worst is when you're doing that for years and you're making money, enough money, right? And you're sick of it and you can't change because you're so dependent on this amount of money coming in. And you're like, well, I can't do anything different because this is what people know me as. And I didn't like it from the beginning. Now I'm stuck. I'm into this job that I hate. And I've seen artists just quit art altogether. Famous, doing a bunch of art, beautiful artwork. And then they're like, no, I'm done with this. Don't like it anymore. Right? So never do something that you don't love to do. Always kind of come back to that. We've already decided that we're making this hard decision to do this art thing, which is not an easy route in life. Okay. So if you're going to do that, don't undercut it into something that you don't care about or you don't like, anyways. So important. That is so important. And I'm sure there's parents listening to me right now where their sons or daughters wants to go. I'm sorry, their children want to go into artwork or be an artist, and they're like, "Don't listen to that guy. You're going to be poor and destitute." No. If you love it enough, I mean, we'll find a way. We'll find a way. It's sticking to what you love. Okay, that pushed back pretty well, but I don't like the paint doesn't look good. It doesn't look, I don't know, the strokes don't look good. It looks kind of mediocre. Doesn't look definite. Doesn't look like something interesting. It looks blah. So let's maybe less of it. Let's see. So number one, decide or understand that this art thing is a harder route. That's a definite. And that we're deciding that to take this difficult route, we're Van Gogh and we're like, we got to paint regardless. I haven't made any money on these paintings, but I need to do it. I'll just continually hit up on my brother to pay for everything. You could do that. We've decided this harder route is what we need and what's best for us. Then we decide what is enough as far as monetary concerns, what comes in, like this is enough for us, and go with that. And then within that, we say, I am not going to paint things that I don't love. I'm not going to do the artwork that I don't enjoy. I'll try different things, maybe a commission will come along that you can't say no to. Maybe it's just so much money that you're like, okay, I'll try this. But then you hate it so much and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. But understanding what that is for you, right? So you're in there, you're doing that, you're making paintings. And now you're like, okay, I need to get these out to the world. And if you were to dumb down everything into its simplicity, here it is. Make art, share art. You have to share it. You can't just be on your own in your studio as a hermit like I would love to be, just painting every single day, right? Actually, I say that, but I love doing these live streams. So definitely not into that deep hermit thing. Sorry. But we can't just be by ourselves. We need others to help us out, like others that will actually purchase our work, right? So we have to share. Sharing our artwork is important. And I know like this is a big hurdle for a lot of artists, like sharing our work. Like, oh my gosh, it's nerve-wracking. I'm going to be putting myself out there. I'm going to be vulnerable. What are people going to say about my work? It could be very negative. I'll get turned down by a lot of people. There's all kinds of things that we worry about. And yes, all that will happen. Every bit of it will happen. It's going to feel terrible in some instances. And then you'll get more positive than negative in a lot of ways. Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of positive and negative, right? I've got more positive than negative most of the time. I've really screwed up this edge of the hand. I wanted to darken it up. Now I'm losing the drawing and I'm losing the freshness of all that brushwork that was there. So I got to get it back. Kind of want it blended as well. I want to lose that edge. Yeah, that's, see how I don't like that. That is really poopy. As soon as I look over in the digital image, I don't like that hand lost its complexity either. You know, that's part of this game. You know, trying something and then it failing and then having to get it back. If you can do that with your art, if you can go, okay, screwed that up, let's get it back. The best training possible is that screwing up and finding a way back is so important, super important. Let me get this hand back the way I want it first. And I'm being very timid as well. And I know from experience, the more timid I am with a lot of this brushwork, tends to not look as good, unfortunately. Not all the time, though. That's why I'd say it tends to be that way. And I'm trying to go back and forth from the topic to the painting. I hope you understand, like, both are important within this stream. Both are important. What I'm going to do is remove that whole thing. Just get rid of it completely. I don't think it's, you know, adding anything to the painting. I think it's taking away more than is necessary. And if we, you know, I love the Carlos Duran quote or paraphrase. If it's, if it's not indispensable, it's unnecessary. And I think this is definitely dispensable. We can get rid of it. Because if we can do that, it's completely unnecessary. Let's scrape down. This is going to be fun. No, not that. I need to not put my palette knife in with my brushes. See, this is scaring me. Look at this. This is scary. Why is that scary, Chris? Because you're scraping it off? Well, partly is that, but usually by now, those under layers of paint will be dry, would have already been dry. This is 140-pound watercolor paper with 2 coats of PVA size on the front and 1 coat on the back. And I've done this through at least 6 or 8 paintings now, and it's been fine. But the fact that I can still scrape all the way back to the paper right now is a big indication that this painting may never dry. And I don't know what happened differently within this that would cause that. And it's so interesting because a lot of times I'll be painting with the same materials all the time. And then something happens and then they just react completely differently on, you know, as far as drying is concerned. And this may be one of those paintings that sits for 6 months and never dries. And I've had that happen before. And the only fix for it is to either let it continually sit and not sell it, or to throw it away, honestly. Scrape it down and paint over top of it or something. I don't know. Let's hope that doesn't happen. I'll report back on it if it does. If that doesn't happen, you'll see it on my website for sale. Okay, back to, you know, us being artists, like putting that business hat on and thinking about galleries and selling work and all that kind of stuff. I want to get a bit more interest in that. It's just, it looks better without it. I think it looks better without it, but you can see, like, it's like a jumble of brushstrokes. There's like so much in there that, I'm just killing it. Killing it. Man, 7 days on this painting and I'm still running into so many things. It's frustrating. You think about this. Why am I running into all this? What is the reason for it? Sorry, I gotta focus on this arm real quick. Oof. Man, see, I got all that was there. It was well done. And now I'm trying to get it back to where it was, which could be impossible. Maybe I need to just go with what I put down. And probably have better language within this. So when I'm painting, we say, oh, it just doesn't look good, or this is, this subjective language, talk about it more in like a fundamental kind of aspect of art, value, color, edges, drawing. Those are the things that we can move through, and we can provide specific changes that will give us an understanding of what we need to do objectively, rather than being so subjective that we just don't know what's going on. So I want this edge to go away, which I did. It did, because I removed that lighter area in the background. I felt like it was unnecessary. But because of all this brushwork is different from everything around it, like all the brushwork around it was light or thin, and it shows a lot of that paper through. I've lost that here, so I need to bring that back. That texture needs to be revitalized in this area, or else it's incongruent with that painting. And okay, this brush is going in the garbage. Dropping too many bristles now, especially in areas where I need to be very careful with every stroke I put down. So let's bring back some of the background transparency. Got to keep that drawing in place. Don't want to lose the drawing of the arm. And I'm just using a very dry brush, and I'm using it, usually we use a brush where we're going down, with the bristles, and that's how we put on paint. And we could do that all the time and never think about how to put, paint down in different ways. But if you just go straight up against the bristles, it's a great way to pull paint off, get different textures. It splays the brush out. It'll be fine. It's okay. It's a cheap brush. You have to watch out for that halo effect that happens around edges. So be careful of that. Bring back a little bit of that chin. You see that halo? Don't like that at all. So I have to bring that back in. So many subtle different things that's going on here. Sidetracking me away from finishing this painting and talking about art, business, and haven't even got into the whole gallery talk I wanted to talk about. Such a subtle change in value here. So I think I'm going to, okay, that's better. Better looking kind of brushwork in here. It's a little bit more congruent with everything in the background. But I think I'm going to do a color. Now I don't like that light on the chin. I'm going to do a color. Gotta fix that now. I'm going to do something similar to how the edge of the face, on this arm. So lighten up that arm just a little bit. It's a little too saturated though. So there's a separation between the face and the background, and that's not happening in this arm at all. And it's all based not on value. The value is pretty close. It's a little bit lighter, but more on saturation, more of a saturation difference where we have the warmth of the skin and the very cool gray of the background, and creating that separation through saturation and hue. And I don't want to lose the structure of it either. There's a turn in this arm. It's circular. It's a cylinder. So it still has to have that, but very subtly. It doesn't have to be so specific. Hmm. I'm dealing with a very dry brush here as well. Hmm. Man, this is frustrating. Okay, so as I play with this, I'm gonna move on. See, there is some paint drying against the surface down there because I can see like under layers kind of sticking, and then I'm removing layers on the top just subtly with, really kind of scrubbing into it with this brush. If I got a bristle brush, I bet you I could scrape some of that paint off a little bit better. I'm scraping paint off because I want to get this back to just almost paper. Not quite. Get that transparency of the paint back so I can have some similarity between paint between these two areas. Right now it looks like, oh, we painted this and then we painted that and it was separate and it's different. This part of the arm is different than that part of the arm. It's looking terrible. Such a struggle with this painting. And the whole time I'm thinking, man, I'm just being so fiddly with this, just so fiddly, so specific that it's annoying me. But we can work through it. We could do this. I got this. All it takes is some time and effort, a little bit of focus. And you're like, we're supposed to be talking about art galleries, Chris. I'll get back to it. I swear. And I need a bit more paint down here. We're going to start with a gray, and then we're going to warm it up from there. Now, it needs to be more saturated than that. So more red, more yellow ochre. That may be pretty close to it. Let's see. Yes. Let's do some white, yellow ochre, and red in a lighter section. Go against the form here because I'm wanting to describe the roundness of this arm as well. I'm putting it on light because for some reason I'm really enjoying the transparency of this paint, the scumbling of that paint where you get that little bit of the paper showing through and it lightens up that value, adds some interest. I want to keep that. Oof, but you like these two strokes and make like two vertical lines there. Look at that. Just a little bit too much paint. The tip of the brush came down onto the paper a little bit more at a right angle and deposited too much paint in that little tiny section. It's exactly what happened. All of this stuff is going through our heads when we're painting. And it's happening. And it's more of a feeling. And only because I talk a lot, am I able to like verbalize exactly what's happening. And now because I'm at the bottom of the arm, I want to darken it up, I want to lose an edge here, but I want to keep that saturation, keep that kind of reddish hue. And I want to bring the value darker so it matches the background and we can lose the edge that's a bit too dark. So lighten it up. How am I going to lighten it up? A little bit with yellow ochre will lighten it up probably perfectly, make it a little bit warmer on the yellow side. Nope, still lighter. And I'm thinking about the drawing as well. I got that couple strokes a bit off. You can see how this is, hopefully you can see on, a 1080p stream, how subtly different these hues are here. A reddish hue in the arm, bluish gray in the background, and more of a yellow ochre and black, which makes kind of a green for those folds. Just small hue changes to indicate differences between those. And those hue changes are so small that I have to be very careful with the brushes that I use, because it's such a subtle difference. If I choose a brush that has red in it when I'm doing this fabric, it's going to bring it into this idea of it looks like an arm, not fabric. It doesn't separate those as well. You see those values all right there are exactly the same. Move into my background brush, which is all gray. I painted some of the arm into the background. Now the background back over the arm. Always going back and forth whenever we're painting. This isn't like paint by number where everything's perfectly separated. Okay, that looks a lot better. Happy with that. I think one other change, which is my red brush. I feel like this arm kind of like fades away too much now as I look at it digitally. Like it looks like it kind of turns down. That's part of the drawing and the value change that's there. You see how dark that was? These are the kind of things that we deal with on painting where I see them because I'm doing it, you know? But then even if it was someone else doing it on their painting, I would say, it doesn't matter. You know, why are you worried about that little area? It has nothing to do with the tremendous amount of the painting. Like I wouldn't even be able to tell it. But then here I am still working on it. We get caught up in these things and it's fine. It's fine. It's fine, Chris. Let it go. Stop painting it. Put the brush down. Put the brush down. Okay, good, good, good. It's good. It's good. Just stop. Okay. It's so hard to do sometimes. Still kind of, I don't know. Don't know. I don't know. Yes, I do know and I don't know. I want to soften some edges here as well. It's so hard because I don't want to put paint down. I want to move the paint around, but most of the paint in this area is pretty set because I haven't touched it since like 3 days ago. So it's actually set here. So there's not a lot of blending left. Yeah, it keeps. No, 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 no. That value difference. And not only that, like we have thin paint and then thick paint, and it just it's showing some kind of plane change in that hand because of the value change and the difference in the brush strokes when there shouldn't be one there. It's because the paint got thicker as I'm putting it down, and I'm getting these colors off as well, value and hue and saturation. Okay. Just chill. Chill. Think about it. Needs to be lighter. I'm all the way up here in the top of the hand. This may be too light where I'm at. Let's warm it up some. Put down just a tiny little test. Just a couple hairs of this brush touching that area to see if the value is what I want. And then soften it. Very subtle, super subtle. That's what I want, super subtle. A little bit darker, a little bit warmer. And move to here. You see, you can see this like difference here. There's like and there, this line that comes down, that line that's there. You look at our reference, and I'm looking so deep into that. Like my eyes have dilated into these shadow areas from the reference, and I'm seeing so much information when honestly, this could be simply done all over the whole thing. And that's all that's necessary. So let's stop being so fiddly with this, Chris, and simplify this whole arm. I know this wasn't part of your plan for your painting today. You felt that the hand was exactly what you wanted it to be, but you hit it in a couple places, and that has grown into a lot of screw ups, a lot of changes. Let's not say screw ups, but a lot of changes, and it's fine. Getting hung up on exactly where it was before, and that's past. It's okay. It's okay. Be a little bit more cognizant of what you're doing, though, because you can further screw it up as well. It's like this combination of sensitivity as well as just going for it and putting defined, definite strokes down. Like being sensitive, but at the same time putting it down confidently. Better. And there's all this stuff that I'm seeing now. I'm all the way up here in the face for some reason. Stream is devolving into boringness. Chris isn't talking about interesting things. Just working on his painting. And I was looking at other streams before I started this stream, and it was just, they're doing their own thing. It's fine. It's fine. But I felt that streams were boring when artists would just like let the camera go and you're watching them paint. I felt that was kind of boring. I didn't like that. I felt like I could do better. And here I am needing to focus on this so hardcore that things are kind of falling apart. And you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be brave here on this face. Or am I? Am I going to be brave? Oh my God, this is hard. See how this, okay. What are you talking about, Chris? Talk us through it. Okay. See this dark area here, right here where my brush is? There's a value here that is so close to here. I think it should be darker. We look at our reference. It could essentially darken out this whole area of the face and remove the lips and remove the chin and almost everything and keep it so simple. And it would be enough. It would be enough. And if I do that now, if I go through this and I just blot it all out and get rid of it, I have a big chance of destroying this painting and it will never recover from it. But if I don't do it, if I don't do that, I'll never know, honestly. I feel like it needs it. Okay, we're going to go for it. We're going to go for it. We'll learn. We'll learn from it. Make sure it's the right value, though. Is that the right value? Yeah, I think it is. I think we could be a bit more on the gray side, though. So a bit more black, a bit more white. Needs to be a bit more white. It got too dark there. So it's a bit grayer. Oof, too dark, too dark. Come back, come back, come back. See, the paint is so thin. I'm working so thinly that the most subtle little tap into a different color is going to affect my small little thin pile of paint. It's a bad habit to work that thinly, but here we go. We're obliterating the entire face now. Go away. Chris doesn't think you're necessary, and he's trying to be as brave as possible. At the same time, I'm also thinking about the angle of all the brush strokes I'm putting down and the drawing, where things end and other things begin. Do I need like the nostril and the bottom of the nose? I don't think so. I think we can change that value. Do I need the lips? I don't think so. I do feel like I need this change in saturation, or change in hue from the background to the foreground, or the face to the background. So it turns into more of a just complete silhouette there. Oof, that is awful. Let's keep going. We've already gone this far. Got to keep going now. I can bring some subtlety back into it. But this whole value, this whole area, everything, you know, I feel like I want to keep that forehead, but it's not important. I do want to keep the nose, like the light area on the nose. It's awful right now because it's like one big color. There's no interest in it. And we got all these sharp edges out here. We don't have any subtlety within that. So we need to bring that back. Let's work on the subtlety of the edges first. The transition between all the saturation and like the more shadowy kind of thing of the face. Yeah, this painting really switched, or this whole stream really switched from what I was going to talk about today to me kind of really pushing on this painting. I can get back to it at some point. If I can get this, what I'm trying to do here, aligned with what's in my head, then I can come back to it. So I want to be careful here, because all this paint is pretty dry in that lighter area, and I want to affect this edge so it's a softer edge, but I don't want to bring too much of that dark into it. I mean, softening things is taking, you know, the dark side and the light side and bringing them together, painting each into the other, but I don't want too much of that dark area to come in. So I'm looking for an interim value that I can put in between them, that is mid-range or somewhere in between that, to help with the subtle change and the plane of the head that's there. It's like the side of the head versus the front of the head, the cheek versus the muzzle of the mouth. And there's also not only a value change, but there's a saturation change here. See, that's too light. I can go darker, but more saturated. Could also use a smaller brush, but I'm thinking about the bigger idea of these as well. Part of this is also shaping our brush when we're painting, shaping your brush to meet where you want to put it down. Question, could you wait for it to dry, however long that takes, and glaze that shadow area over the dry paint? Yeah, totally. Like, that could be the smart, patient play on that. If I was being smart and very patient on it, you know, glazing. But I never do glazing. I did glazing years and years ago, but I've gotten away from it. I always prefer, it always comes down to preference, right? Um, I'm preferring the more a la prima approach. And as I say that, well, Chris, this is like the 7th day on this painting. You're beyond that kind of a la prima thing. But if I was to wait for this paint to dry, I mean, it could be 4 weeks before I can, it's set enough to go over with it, with a, no, I'm getting too thick here, getting too thick. Could be 4 weeks before I have to go over it with a glaze, because what you run into with glazing is picking up the layers underneath if they're not set really well. And then a lot of people will get into the whole archival quality of that stuff. Oh no, you got to wait for 6 months in order for it to oxidize completely, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that. I really don't. I've done, I don't know how many paintings where the glazing would happen, on a daily basis. Under layers are barely dry, oiling out on top, moving some of that paint around, and they've been fine. Of course, all those paintings are not on canvas, they're on boards. So the flexibility of the paint layer is kind of unnecessary, and that's a tangent I don't want to get into. I got enough going on right now. But yeah, totally could glaze over this if I was patient enough. And here's what would happen. Like, I'm waiting for months for this to dry, testing it. I've already moved on to a bunch of other paintings in between that time. Like, I'm not going to just go, I'm working on this one painting and it's not dry yet, and I got to wait for it to dry in order to continue on with it. No, that feels like just a very lazy excuse to me. No, I'd be working on other paintings, and I'm sure within that month or two that I would be on to something completely different, and then have to go back in time to other things that I was working on at the time. My brain is different. I'm a different person, and I'm like, nope, don't feel like it. Not going to do it. Not me. And it would just never happen. So that, I know myself that much, like what I like to do, and I probably wouldn't glaze it. Okay. Subtle transitions, coming back on that. Okay. So you can see the difference in value, how subtle that difference in value is, where it's like, it looks like a plane change. So that has to be fixed, has to be changed in some way, or not. Or I just, maybe I'm just still getting too subtle with it. Maybe it needs to have this kind of darker flatness to it and have some kind of statement within that, like where I'm really not making a good painting, good in my current idea of what a good painting is, and just pushing myself to say, no, this is fine like that. That's what we need to do. Squinting down now, thinking about these bigger ideas, thinking about the brushwork as well, because I'm not thinking anymore about lips and face and nose and cheek. For the most part, I'm thinking about making that interesting. And I feel like my brain is saying that the background needs to come into the face. Like it's trying too much to be a face now. And I don't need that. Better. That's better. There's this level, okay? This is very subjective, hard to describe, but there's this level, okay, where, and I put everything on like a spectrum. So we got this spectrum right here, and on one side of the spectrum is I don't know, we're doing things exactly, right? Trying to describe a face. On the other side of the spectrum, no face whatsoever, just two strokes for a nose, like it's off the deep end for us, like way over into like abstract area. Okay. And you could put every sensibility that we have, like if we're trying to do something new and different, we can put it all on this kind of spectrum. And if we go to here, like halfway, if we just take it halfway, kind of abstract, kind of representational, kind of expressive, kind of not, um, it's mediocre. If we only go halfway with it's mediocre. No one knows what you're trying to say. It's we're dealing with visual imagery, not like words where we can be very specific with it. It's the difference between, talking very subtly and very quietly to hitting someone over the head with a hammer with your words very loudly. It's the difference between classical and speed metal, right? And if we're right in the middle into some, I don't know, Kenny G, oh my God. Sorry for people that love Kenny G. I don't know, like right in the middle of that, it gets mediocre. People are like, oh, I listened to that in the elevator. But if we go further with it, if we really take it, and I'm talking specifically about this, I obliterated that face, all that work I did in it. But if I take it further and I'm like, no, face gone, more background, just get rid of it, done. I'm over here. At that point, it becomes more understandable. When someone else moves into this painting and they look at it, there's a definite ideal, there's a definite understanding, there's a commitment to one thing, to one area, to take it further. And that it's not easy to do that because we're trying something new and different, pushing ourselves to be expressive. And we don't want to make a bad painting. We don't want to waste our time. But this is also part of the game, We have to go almost too far a lot of the times and then overcorrect later. Or we overcorrect and then kind of bring it back later, Yeah. Oh, you're a patient glazer. Good. Good. There's a lot of people that love, I mean, the subtlety that you can get within glazing is fantastic. It's actually gorgeous. But, I'm going to say this as well. A lot of paintings can look overworked very quickly. You look at, all the old master paintings from like the 1100s and things like that. And it's nothing but glazing. They're just, they're figuring out oil paint because it's a new thing, right? I think the very first oil painting was the Andolfini portrait. I think that's what it's called. And it's like super, super exact, tons of glazing over a long period of time, super, super detailed, but that I would like to see painting that's more expressive that still uses glazing. I'm sure there's artists out there that have done it and it looks amazing, but having the combination of those two would be pretty cool. Yeah, see, I'm feeling this a little bit better. I'm feeling it. I'm still pulling some ideas from the reference there. Like that was too dark, I need to bring that back. I'm still thinking it's darker on the left side of the nose as far as value and definitely under the nose, right? Like where the upper lip is, and then that nostril is there. But am I being exact with all the changes and values and planes there? No. I want to try and bring back an idea of this eye. An eye idea. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Next, I'm going to pull out a bunch of dad jokes. Oof. See, that value is a little bit, it's screaming a little bit too much, saying too much. Okay, that was good. Oof. Maybe a bit too dark on that stroke. This attention to everything that's put down. And what's interesting about this, because when we simplify it all, every single stroke that you put down becomes so much more important. Does it have the right angle? Does it have the correct value? Does it have the correct saturation, the correct hue? Does it have the correct edges with it? Is it expressive enough? Is it going in the right place you want? Simplification does that. I think that's, you get into abstraction, abstract art, and the more simple it is, the more important every little movement in those paintings are. And that's really interesting. Yes, yes, yes. Looking better. That feels better. Not really liking this edge here. This like very subtle description of where the top of the lip ends and the face begins. It's a bit barely even there. Hardly any indication of it. And I know I'm doing this, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that would prefer the exactness of the face, right? And that was the wrong brush. That's a gray brush. And that paint area is completely destroyed there. I know a lot of people would look at this and not prefer, oh, it looks better the way it was before. And that's fine. Totally cool. I needed to do this for me. Feels good that I did that. It feels good that I went through it. Probably not a better painting. Selective glazing is the key. Yeah, this may not be a better painting as I look at it in the digital form, the way it is, but like that nose is so prominent now. It's tremendously prominent. It's the value difference and the edges, especially the edges on it. That's a very high value, very close to what's already there. Much too bright. I need to bring it down, I think. Or maybe not. Maybe not bring it down in value, but fix the edges around it. Let's trying to find a better saturation within this. No, that's not it. Not it. Try a different value. Much darker than that. Oof. I keep screwing up my mixture. Come on, you can get it. Okay, that's closer. You know what this reminds me of? When we're talking about simplifying things to component parts and simplification, and how every single movement or brushstroke or change in value, every little thing that you put down becomes so much more important because it's so simple. Those little small changes make big impacts. It reminds me of cooking, which is interesting. I love the connection between like all these other arts and painting. I remember watching one of those like I don't know, competitive shows on TV with cooking. And it was a group of chefs that were competing for something. And these one group of chefs decided to go with very minimal ingredients. And the master chef comes by and asks them what they're doing, and they're like, "Oh, we're going with just these two ingredients or something like that, very minimal or something." And the master chef says, "Well, you know that your flavors and everything have to be just perfect, like dead on when you're dealing with such a small or limited amount of ingredients." And they're like, "Nah, we got this. It'll be all right. We got this." And it just didn't work for them. It did not work at all because it was, so subtle and difficult. Like that was like upper mastery of being a chef, where you could take the most simple ingredients and turn them into a dish that's amazing. I think that's the same with artwork. It's with painting. You simplify it so much and you have to be just right on, just dead on with all those strokes, all those little tiny ingredients that you put in there. Every little change that you make has to be right, has to be there because you only have a few. It can't hide behind everything else. It's just like with drawing as well. If you're ever in a class or something learning how to draw, like at beginning classes, or even more advanced classes, the instructor will tell you no shading. You're not going to do any shading in this class, just lines. That's what we're going to deal with. And the reason why they say that is because we'll do all this shading and we'll hide the inaccuracy of our drawing behind all that shading. We don't have all these extra ingredients to help us out. We don't have all these extra ingredients to hide our lack of sensibility or lack of skill. I think this nose needs to either go all the way or not at all. I need to either bring up the value on it a lot and go bright with it and say it's a prominent part of this composition, or remove it altogether almost. Yeah. So let's try making it very prominent first. Let's go all the way up into that value. It's a triangle and the drawing is difficult and I keep putting my hand in paint on my palette, which I don't like doing. Let me see. The drawing on it's terrible. The edges are terrible. But that definite making it making that decision to go for it, I think, is helping. Now we just have to clean up what's around it to bring in some of that subtlety back, I feel. And if I'm going to do that, might as well go deep into the saturation that happens between the light and the shadow, right on that edge. And then I'm going to get a sharp brush and bring in that background again. Really bring in that contour. Is that too light? Yes, it is. I got some glare on that paint. I couldn't see it. Ooh, it's still glaring. It's thick. That's why. If you paint thin, you get less glare. You don't have all those ridges of the brushes glaring back at you. But it's a different look as well. Just a subtle change in the bridge of that nose. imagine some people looking at this painting today and going, "Oh, Chris, you done effed it up." And it's okay. You know, got to take it far to, to figure out a little bit more about ourselves, right? And then maybe back up and go, "Yep, that didn't work. Here's why it didn't work," and then figure that out later. I do think it's better. I think it's better. Yeah. Okay. Just a couple more things to do in this face. How dark is this? I don't know what that value is that I have in my brush. Could be too dark. No, that's fine. I did want it darker. I'm focusing so much that my possibilities with vocalizing what I'm doing is dying. Sorry about that. Okay. That's pretty good. I have accomplished a lot so far, but I'm still not done today. Next thing that I talked about at the very beginning of this stream, 2 years ago, it feels like, was that hair. I need to find a more grayish brush. This guy I think will work. We can mix up more of a gray over here. The head feels like it needs to raise up a little bit. Like there's a skull that should go all the way up there, but it feels chopped off. It's something that I tend to do, and I think a lot of artists tend to do, is chop off the top of the head, especially when it's getting really close to the edge of the canvas. The best thing you could ever do when faced with that is to just send it right off the top of the canvas. Just go for it. Rather it look like a well-formed head than try and fit it on there as best you can. But I think it only needs to raise up just a tiny bit. Oof, needs something much lighter than that. It's a warm highlight up here at the top. Still got to go lighter with it. Lighter still. Better. Definitely better. Just, a few millimeters there. And that's what it needed. Keep it soft. Just indicating it, not being too exact with it. Just an indication, this kind of cool idea. There's some hairs just kind of floating around up there. Not that it's like this definite dome, but it's hair like flies off everywhere. So kind of indicating that a little bit. I could use the edge of my brush to draw some hairs in, but that would be too sharp up there. I want like a fade that happens. So, and this is the kind of thing where you get into these like specific brush strokes too long to do that. I think that helps. Could be maybe a bit larger, but no, that helps. That does help. Okay. I'm fine with that, except for one thing. I want to take that highlight a bit further back here and see what happens. Just a touch. Because I was talking about the composition before at the beginning, where we had this lighter area here, this was lighter, we had the face in there, all this stuff. And if I remove those two, we would have more of a diagonal like idea of light going this way. And when I put these little tiny, like even higher highlights in the hair, I think it can help with that diagonal indication from the shoulder to the hand all the way up. And the nose is kind of doing that as well. The hand definitely being the lightest light in the entire painting. And that's like the major focus, but still having that angle of all the light. Yeah. I'm really kind of like pushing my envelope on this, pushing my boundaries within this. Now, I think what is going to be fun is, this multi-day painting has been really informative. Great. Thank you. I think this is going to be fun, getting subtlety within those fingers, definitely. What brush? What brush? I want bright, no. I want a different brush. All the brushes I have down here right now have got just junk, all kinds of paint in them. I don't want to have to try and bring all of the paint that's in these brushes back to a very saturated color there. I'll even mark out a more a place on my palette so I can get clean color again. Very seldom do I worry about the color being clean, quote unquote clean. But when we're talking about like the focal area where all the interest of the entire painting is supposed to reside, and I know I'm dealing with a Zorn palette where saturation is at a minimal, and I really need to kind of focus on keeping it clean there. I'm going to mix up some colors here first. It's like a very light orangey color, closer to red. I'll bring a pile over here, put more yellow ochre in it to make it a little bit more yellow. And then I have kind of a yellowish bright color. And then I'll mix some of them together. So we'll have something in between as well. Now I have all this I can kind of move through to bring into those fingers. That I can lighten up, I can darken up, I can do everything with. And you know what I need is my maul stick. Where is it? Hey, this is fun. So one place that we were renting, you see my maul stick here. Let me see if I can make my face bigger. So this stick here, this piece of wood was like if you have blinds that the plastic blinds that go horizontal and you turn this thing to open and close them. This was like in a closet somewhere at a place we rented. So just a stick. And then I had an old, what is that? Towel or something that I just balled up. I cut it in half and I balled up some of it and I wrapped some of it around it and then clear tape. That's the tape I had at the time. Perfect maul stick. Perfect. I mean, I bet you if I went on to like dickblick.com or Amazon right now, someone's going to try and sell you a maul stick for like $50. I made this for zero. I love how, or not love it, but I think it's so funny how art stores will have this premium with all of their art supplies. And then you go to like a department store or a hardware store and you're like, holy crap, I can get that same tape for next to nothing. And the art store says, oh, this is artist tape. It's the same tape, but it's more expensive. You know, if they put like art supply on it, now it becomes a premium. I can definitely sell it for a bit more. But of course, there's some materials that are different. So I don't know. I'm the kind of person where if I could find this like inexpensive, super cheap at a thrift store, like that's the best. Like art supplies that some people are giving away like they don't like anymore. Those are the best. Heck, I gave away a big pile of gambling paint, like 50, 60 tubes, because I just don't paint with them anymore. They got too thick. Even the newer tubes, they were just so thick. I mean, I didn't like it. I didn't like the thickness of them, the viscosity, that high viscosity, I didn't like. Nope. Bad stroke. Bad Chris. Put a very dark stroke in the wrong place. So that means I have to go in because I want more of that paper to show through. A sharp dry brush to scrape that off. There we go. Scraping it back down actually looks pretty good. I like that. I still want to get back onto the topic of, galleries and things like that. I've gotten so focused onto this painting, dealing with stuff, that it really sidetracked me away from that. So apologize for that. But I'm also in my head, I'm trying to remember where I was at within that. Screw it. Let's just talk about galleries, because I've shown at multiple galleries around the country. I never stayed in any gallery for a long period of time, honestly. It wasn't like I was a prominent artist in any of these galleries, or that every place that I showed at, I was like, like I'm not special in any way. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, this is not me trying to be all pretentious within this. But yeah, I've shown at some galleries by, talking to some people and saying, hey, let's show at a gallery. I mean, I don't think that's the important thing. Well, just to give you an idea that I've done this before, like I know a little bit about it, right? I don't know as much as like someone like Nicholas Uribe, who's shown in like galleries in New York and things like that for years and made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of paintings, a bunch of paintings over years, like I'm not at that level, but I think I'm in the level that's past starting out, definitely past starting out, but not like big time, right? So whatever in between level that is. I put too much paint on here. I want to scrape it off. Now, the first thing what I really want to talk about as far as galleries is the problems with galleries, because whether we like it or not, they do have a lot of problems. I love galleries. I love going into galleries, local town galleries, really prominent galleries, very important galleries, galleries where everybody wants to get into them because they're the gallery to be into, that kind of thing. I love all these galleries, but they have their issues. We've moved around the country in multiple places, and most of the galleries that I've approached have this idea that if you're in our gallery, you can't show anywhere else around us, like a 50-mile radius or something, because they're trying to make money, which makes sense, right? And they want to have you as an exclusive. If they like your work, there's this whole thing about going in, showing your work, and being subjectively judged, right? That's part of it. So if you want to be at a gallery, you have to go through that process. And then I think the most important thing about that process is to not take rejection so close to the heart. For example, I love Rembrandt. I like Rembrandt. I like Mark Rothko. I like Picasso. I mean, I don't think there's any artist I don't like. Trying to think of artists that I can't see something within. So I'm kind of weird like that. But it's a subjective thing. Like if I say I really like Mark Rothko or Jackson Pollock, there's a ton of people that are like, yeah, that Rothko and Pollock are crap. So it's so subjective, and very important people will say the same thing. Like, those artists are crap. You don't know what you're talking about. And that's the same subjectivity that we'll deal with when we go into galleries. You'll have some random person say, I don't like your artwork. And they have their own sensibilities and their own reasons for it. And honestly, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Like, it's a subjective opinion. We all have it. So when someone gives you their honest opinion, the best thing to do is listen and then determine whether or not you want to take that opinion to heart and do something about it, or change, or just say, okay, no worries. That's cool. I'll try another gallery. So don't take it too much to heart, because opinions are out there and they're fairly meaningless. It's like if you, and it's good and bad. Like if you say all bad opinions are meaningless, all good opinions are meaningless too. Good and bad, you have to look at it in the same route. Like I was in a show in Edmond, Washington for, nudes, and I won Best in Show. Would that happen at every place? No, not at all. There'd be another place that, I wouldn't even got in the show because the paintings that I presented they didn't like it. Then there's also, when we talk about like nude work or showing the body, right? Just the body, tastefully nude, like not even showing any naughty bits, right? Very sensible, just like a back, which I've got a bunch of those paintings. And those will be turned down by most galleries. They'll say, no, we don't do nudes. Yeah, you're not showing breasts and you're not showing genitalia, but we just don't do it. And it's the same as if someone said to you about your artwork, I don't like it. It's just as meaningful, which means it's not, right? It's just an opinion. So we have to look at it as that. That's just their opinion. It's not, they're not saying you're a bad person or you're not a good artist or anything like that. No, you're putting your work out there. You're being brave enough to be vulnerable and say, let's put my work out there because I want to try and get to the gallery, see if I can sell some of this work. And it's okay if people say no, because they should. We should say no. A lot of galleries are going to look at, the work that you do and the work that they see from people that come in, and they're going to determine whether or not it's good for that gallery or not. If they didn't do that, and if they just took in everything, it'd be a fairly mediocre gallery in some instances. And they want to have a level of work that looks like X or Y. So it's still a good thing. The most important thing that I think we have to think about with, putting our work in a gallery is showing your work is important. Getting it out there is important. It's the second half of creation, right? You create it, you show it. So let's say that we're over that. Okay. We have a bunch of galleries locally, and everybody does. Yeah, receiving critique can feel intimidating. And on it, when you talk about critiques, which is a really good point. It's really good that you brought that up. When you talk about critiques, the more critical of the critiques, the ones where people will give you the good and the bad, what they like and what they dislike, those are the most valuable ones. And you can it's hard to find people that will do that for you because they're so afraid. Most people are afraid how artists are going to take it, because a lot of artists are very sensitive. They don't want to hear what you don't like about it. They just want to hear about the positive stuff. But we can't grow as artists if we don't get some kind of critical feedback on our artwork. And it doesn't have to be from other people. I mean, there's so many artists out there that refuse to be critical about their own work. And what that turns into is artists that stagnate, that don't improve, don't find their voice, don't move forward in some way. And they just do the same paintings over and over and over again. And if they're happy with that, that's fine. But that's not me. That's not me at all. Like, I want that critical response. I love it when people say, I really don't like this, and this is why I don't like it. I'm like, yes, please tell me. Because the best thing about that, the best thing about those critical reviews is maybe it's someone you respect tremendously and you listen to them, and it gives you the information you need to improve tremendously on your work. Or it's someone that's offering this information unwarranted, and you're like, oh, well, I appreciate your feedback. And then you erase it from your mind. You're like, nope, I don't want to listen to that anymore. It's okay. Thank you for your feedback, but I'm going to continue with what I want to do. And that's fine. You don't have to listen to what people say. You don't have to take their words and say, okay, I'm going to do that. But if we listen to nothing but positivity all the time, if it's our family members, especially our mothers, right, that say, it's the best thing ever, can I put it on my refrigerator? And they're always going to say that, especially if they're not artists. We can choose to just take that, listen to it, say, thanks, Mom, and that's cool, appreciate you. But understand that it's not critical, and it's not going to help us in any way. It's not going to help us improve as an artist. It's going to make us feel better about ourselves, which is always good, right? And then in a lot of ways, people that aren't into what we're doing and don't know a lot about it will say things that we know to kind of ignore anyways. It doesn't look like the picture. Yes, that's fine. It doesn't look like the picture. Trying to do something more than that, and I'm failing tremendously on it still. But you're right, it doesn't look like the picture. So critical review, always good, always good. But let's say that we're past that. We have some galleries locally that we want to get into, that we want to try and sell our artwork. We're okay with the feedback. How do you approach galleries, and what galleries do you approach? What other type of galleries are there? Because there's multiple different types of galleries out there. Usually when we think about galleries as artists, we think about, the ones in New York, the ones that are in Paris or London, or these really big name things that are galleries that every artist wants to look up to, that kind of thing. But there's also co-op galleries out there. There's community galleries, right, that are more about the community than they're less separate businesses and more about like, hey, let's get the community involved in this. And it's not run by one individual, but a group of people. Or like co-op galleries. I've been in many co-op galleries here. It's the artists support the gallery. And they're a lot easier to get into. A lot easier to get into because they feature a lot of local artists that have a lower skill level in some instances, that don't take themselves so seriously, a lot less pretentious, a lot more welcoming. Some wonderful people in there, and they are willing to work with other galleries in the area. And they're like, yeah, you can show at this gallery, you can show at that gallery. It's cool. I love co-op galleries. I've been in a bunch of co-op galleries. And if you have a co-op gallery in your area and you're ready to show your work, go for it, like right away, jump into it. Like, don't even think about it. Just um, have a bunch of your work. Hopefully it's small work. If it's larger work, have some really good photos of them. Take that into the gallery and say, hey, here's my work. Do you think, like, who would I talk to show my work? Because usually you walk in there and it's going to be someone that's staffing the counter at the time, right, for these co-op galleries. And they're probably not the person to make a decision, or they have a committee of artists that get together and they all vote on who's going to be part of the gallery, right? And it just takes you to walk in there and say, here's my work. Who do I talk to? And you'll know right away. Like, if you walk into the gallery and it just doesn't feel right to you, like, I'm doing a lot of abstraction and that's what I love, but everything on the walls here are very representational, landscapes and still lifes, then maybe that's not the gallery for you to check out. Maybe the gallery down the road that shows a lot more contemporary alternative art, right? That is willing to show different things. For me, I have to constantly go into a gallery and go, are you okay with nude figures or tastefully done nude figures? And, that's the main question I ask, because that'll help, me not waste any time. Because if they say, no, we don't really do that, then I'm like, okay, thank you. Awesome. And then you look around the gallery, maybe you buy some paintings and then you leave. That's all that's the very first thing. Is this the gallery for me? Do they do the work that I feel like I would be a fit in, that I would enjoy, being part of this community, right? Because the co-op galleries are interesting. They'll ask several things of you. Like, some of them will ask you to pay for the space depending on the size of the space. And it's usually very inexpensively, because it's a co-op of artists. It's a bunch of artists in there. So it's like $20 or $30 a month, right? Which is nothing to show your work. Some of them, depending on, bigger cities, things like that. Like, I was at a gallery in Colorado Springs. It was like $95 a month to show there. And you had to staff the gallery. Sometimes it's like twice a month. Sometimes it's 3 times a month. And they will have like monthly meetings that you're required to show up at. Like, there's a lot more to it than just showing your work up there and going for it. Now, I am part of a gallery here, the Arts Alliance in Pueblo, where I can just put my work up there. I don't have to staff the gallery. They're just really happy to have my work up there, and it sells, every now and then they do the sales for it. And that's fine for me. I mean, I'm very lucky having a gallery like that, right? And one thing I don't want to get into is how to take good photos of your work, but you do need, if you have big work, like I do a lot of small paintings, so I can bring the small paintings in person, which is super helpful, because photos just don't do paintings justice most of the time. So it's really nice to be able to bring the paintings in and show them directly. But for the most part, like, if they do a group judging of your work, like if they have a committee of people that are going to say, okay, they'll send out an email to everyone and they'll say, okay, this is a new artist. His name's Chris Bevan. And here's his work. Give a yay or a nay on whether you think he should be part of the gallery, right? And that's it. And you have to have good photos within that, because you have all these people that don't know you. They're going to be judging your work from your photos. So professionally done photos, that means, either getting someone to do them or do them yourself. But photos that are of high quality, are cropped correctly, show all the color and everything that you wanted to show, has all, says everything about the painting that you want to say about your painting. And if they're well done, that goes a long way to helping you to get into those galleries, because you will be judged visually on that. Hey Matthew, how you doing? Good seeing you. Now, I have been in traditional galleries, the ones where, and we'll get into some money stuff here in a second. I've been in traditional galleries where it's not a co-op setting. And the difference between traditional galleries and co-op settings is co-op, you're asked to staff, you pay some rent, because it's the community taking care of that space and paying the rent and everything. For traditional galleries, they take care of everything, right? So not only are they doing the rent and all that, but they're also showing your work and in charge of selling it. And they are going to be taking a large percentage. A lot of the co-op galleries you get into, because you're staffing and because you're helping out with a lot of that, you're being part of the community, which I like a lot better, because being part of an artist community is so motivating, especially if it's a good community. Here in Pueblo, they have a wonderful art community. But traditional galleries is like, okay, you show it, it's up for us to sell it. There's the problems with that is they do take a really high percentage. Usually it's like 50% right now. Maybe more in some cases, maybe less in some cases. So what you do is you offset that by raising your price. So you say, oh, I want to get $1,000 for this painting or $100 for this painting. Well, you got to double the price because they're going to take their portion of it, right? And you're like, okay, well, that's fine. But it gets tough because you can outprice yourself from the area, right? Because if you have to double your prices to go into this gallery, and the median or amount of or cost of artwork that people are willing to actually pay for is much lower than what you're charging, then, the sales are going to be very slow. And that's up to you to decide. Like, I've seen a lot of people that are in galleries that are like, if I don't sell, but once every 2 months, I'm fine with that. They have their pricing really high for a reason, and that's how they price their things. Co-op is a little bit easier, less of that worry, but there's also no one there selling your work for you as well. Like, everybody that's staffing the place has their own artwork up. And in a lot of instances, I've been faced with artists that will not talk about anybody else's work. And if someone comes in, they'll pull them away and say, hey, just look at my paintings. This is my painting, which is, in most co-op, you're not supposed to do that, but, that's what can happen. The problem with co-ops that I found, I'm not in any more co-op galleries right now, because I decided to be a full-time artist to work on my art and videos and things like that. And it was just way too time consuming to be in co-op galleries. I was in 4 at the same time, had to work 3 shifts a month in each. Some of them were far away, so it was like an hour drive up and an hour drive back. And it became just too arduous. It was taking too much of my time. Now, I would fill that time by when I was actually going to the co-op galleries, I would bring an easel and my painting, and they were usually pretty slow. Galleries are slow. There, it isn't like there's a lot of people in there all the time. They were slow, and so I would get a lot of painting done, but it would be pretty boring at the same time. Staffing a gallery is very boring. It can be, unless you have a lot to do or a lot of people coming in and out. The most important times for galleries are when they have events. And a lot of places, and maybe in your country or where you're living, they'll do these things called like First Fridays or First Thursdays or whatever. So like the first Thursday of the month, here it's the first Friday of the month, they open up, and they'll have like a new show, like a new featured artist or something like that. And they bring in a ton of people that way. And those are the most important parts. You know, if you're in one co-op gallery, that's when you want to show up, be there, talk to people about your work, be interested in other people and talking about who you are as a person and why you do things. Like that has sold more paintings for me than anything else. Like if a person knows a little bit about the work and why I did it, like the interest comes in there, and they're more likely to actually buy the painting because they feel like they're buying a little bit of you within that as well. They're like, oh, I like this person. They're cool. I want to support them. So they'll buy your painting, you know? And that happens to me all the time because of YouTube videos and things like that as well. So it can be not only in a gallery, but in other places. But getting out there, talking about your work is so important. Now, here's what I want to talk about too. The bigger problem with galleries. The big problem with galleries is that they're gateways. What do I mean by gateway? You have to go through somebody else to sell your work, right? It's not dependent on just you any longer. It's dependent on other people, you know, co-op or whatever. So you'll go into a co-op gallery to sell your work, and maybe not a lot of things will sell. And that's you'll have that. Maybe you're off on your pricing for that area. Maybe it's too expensive for the area, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. But you have to go through them to actually sell your work. And then they're going to set price ranges. They're also going to start to tell you, I really liked those other paintings that you made because those sold really well. Those are the traditional galleries will tell you what to paint in a lot of ways. I've heard, of galleries saying, could you do that painting again? It sold really well. Can you make the same painting over and over again? And I find that terrible. This is not every gallery, but some galleries are like that. They think, oh, I have a product and I want to sell it. And especially for galleries that are not run, like traditional galleries that are not run by artists, you'll get into a lot of that. If it's like a business person, they'll just see you as a product, right? And if you're not providing what they can sell, they'll go away, right? We'll have a trial period for you, blah, blah, blah. And then, we have to be careful with contracts and things like that. Contracts, like I was in a contract with a gallery in California, and my painting had to be there for a year at least. Didn't get, and it didn't, I didn't think it worked really well. I wanted to try and see how that worked out, but it just didn't work really well. Wasn't selling. It was too much for the painting because they were taking, their 50%. And it was a figurative painting in a landscape gallery. And it was like, okay, this is incongruent with everything else in your gallery. So I ended up pulling my painting out. Great people, really nice people, but I didn't think it worked out, right? So we have to deal with that gateway if you want to go into galleries. And I think that's the problem, the biggest problem with galleries. Not only the fact that galleries are kind of dying right now. I mean, there's a lot of galleries that are struggling, especially when the market, people are struggling. All of the first thing to go are all of the oh crap, I said it before. Everything that we don't need. Well, all the grocery stores will be fine. Liquor stores will be fine. But things that are unnecessary, like paintings, those will go first. People will just, not buy those. That's the first thing that people don't buy a lot. So we have to, understand that. Right now, it's probably not a great market. Maybe never is a good market for selling in a gallery. Not sure. It's very similar to, have you ever heard of like the Four Horsemen? So, the Four Horsemen of social media, basically. You got Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Google. And they are the barrier between you and your actual customers. They are the gateway that you have to pass through, or we feel like we need to pass through in order to connect with people. And here I am utilizing Google's platform on YouTube to connect with people. The same is true for galleries. They are the gateway that we go through, and we have to kind of bow down to exactly what they need and what they want in order to get to their customers, right? And we make a decision on whether or not we want to do that. But it's a truth that we have to deal with. It's a truth we have to deal with, unfortunately. And it's the biggest reason why I don't like galleries, especially traditional galleries. I like co-op galleries because there's a lot of work into them and things like that. There is negatives, but you get such wonderful community out of it. I've met so many wonderful people by being in co-op galleries here in Pueblo. It's been fantastic. People that I've made really good friends with, other artists. That's just a joy. With traditional galleries, like a friend of mine, he's into a bunch of traditional galleries, and sometimes he'll go to that gallery, unannounced, and he'll say, "Hey, how you doing? We were just in the area. Want to talk to you because I'm in the area and see how you're doing. I haven't been here in a few months. How's my work selling? Where did you put it at?" And then he'll find, like he's found in several instances, they're like, "No, your work is in storage right now. We're not even showing it and we haven't showed it for months because they have some other thing going on." And my friend's like, I'm a full-time artist and I depend on my stock being shown where I need it to be shown, right? And if you're not showing it to people, and I'm not showing it to people, because a lot of galleries will say, "Hey, if you sell it here, you can't sell on your website either. You can't sell it anywhere." And so, he's like, "All right, well, I'm going to pick up my paintings and you're not going to sell them for me anymore. If you can't put them out, yeah, that's ridiculous." I mean, it's kind of like all these companies that sell their products in like Walmart or something. And if Walmart said, "Yeah, we're just going to keep all of your products in the stock room," the company said, "Well, okay, yeah, ship it all back because we're not going to sell with you anymore." Right? It just doesn't make sense. So there's this kind of policing that has to happen with galleries in some instances, like how they're hanging it, how they're selling it. Uh, there can be some nefarious stuff. There can be things like that happening. And sometimes, it's very wealthy people running these galleries and they don't understand, or they're retired and they're like, "Yeah, we're just going to show it," and, they use their gallery like it's paid off. They use it as like a showroom to just have fun, to like decorate, walls with artwork. I've seen that before. But then there's other galleries that like, they'll say, "Okay, we're going to have a show for you once a year or once a quarter. We rotate with these shows. You have to be here. We're going to promote you like crazy, not only in our social media, but also in the local news and paper and all that kind of stuff." And those are the kind of galleries that are like, "I'm invested in selling your work because the more you sell, the better I do." And there's galleries out there that are like that. Now, I've been talking about nothing but galleries, right? And I think it is an important part of like this process for us as traditional artists that make actual paintings. A little bit different for digital artists. Digital artists can show in galleries, but I will say the majority of printed work, like prints, don't sell. And especially if it's digital work that's been printed, the chance to sell that, from what I've seen, of course, it's very limited. Could be in other areas. Digital work is sold really well, printed really well as a physical thing, and then sold really well. But from what I've seen, it hasn't really sold well at all. There's something about it where people look at it and they go, "Oh, it's digital," and they automatically see it as not being worth the price that's put on it. And yes, it's lower priced than like an original piece of artwork, you know? And then we get into that whole NFT junk, which I think is a scam. I don't like NFTs at all. It's like, oh, yeah, the problem with digital work was the fact that it could be reproduced everywhere. So let's fix that by creating NFTs. Still sounds nefarious to me. I'm sorry. There's this piece of paper that says that only I can reproduce it, or there's only one, whatever. Like, how long is that going to last, right? I'm pretty sure that there's a good chance that it could be reproduced a million times in other countries. You know, I got 50 NFTs off of this one painting. I know that's happening. It feels weird and I don't like it, but that's just me. And I'm sure there's people that do NFTs that are listening to me right now going, no, it's great. But no, not me. Not me. Okay, this painting's looking pretty good. I even like the weirdness of that right there. That little light on the hand looks kind of strange. The nose kind of showing out, right? I'm going to look at it digitally real quick. What do you feel makes for a strong portfolio website, and any differences between a portfolio versus selling website? Oh, dude, that was like going to be the next thing I get into. So I'm talking, and that's why I said, you know, we need to make a choice whether or not we want to deal with these gateway galleries. And all galleries are gateways. We have to go through them to get to their people so that they can show us off if we choose the gallery thing. But if we do our own website, if we have our own thing that we own completely, and then all social media, all external advertisement always points to chrisbevan.com, right? chrisbevan.com. If you're raking into your central location, it's like like the spokes of a wheel, right? Your website is the center and all the spokes kind of grab everything in. That's the strategy, trying to bring everything into one place. We can control that 100%. I can put nude work on my website and not feel like it's a problem. Like here on YouTube and especially on Twitch, I can't show anything. I've already been banned twice from Twitch for several days because I was scrolling through a reference site for, you know, Satinezilla that was showing, you know, this image here and other images with out of focus body parts, and banned. You know, if we make our home on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Kara, YouTube, every social thing out there, and we build our entire castle at this one space, and we say, this is where you can go, only go here on Instagram and see my work. One day you're going to upload something, or someone's going to make a comment on it and they're going to say, you know what? You're banned. We deleted your account. Or someone's going to hack your account if you get really big, and they're going to erase everything and put up there really quickly a bunch of stuff that they want to sell, nefarious stuff. That's happened so many times. And guess what? If you depend on like Facebook because you have 60,000 or 100,000 followers and that brings in all your money, that can go away in an instant. And you have no repercussions from that, nothing whatsoever to do. So never build your castle on their land. And that's why our website is super important, you know? I'm setting up a portfolio website now and will consider selling it in the future. I think if any artist is listening to me right now, if you don't have a dedicated website, you need to get on that right away, instantly. If you're like, oh, I just use Facebook and Instagram. No. Number one, all your posts on Facebook go away after time. They go into the ether. No one sees them and they're gone. Instagram, yeah, you can have a portfolio that you scroll through, right? But at any point in time, it can be gone. You know, I know we use these platforms. Everybody uses these platforms. We move through those to get to other people that way. They're the gatekeepers, and we feel like we have to do this. But it's a very fragile place for us to be. And we're already into this art game that is fragile as it is. We've already decided to make the hard decision to be artists. That's not going to make a lot of money, right? And if we make it even more fragile by depending on social media for our entirety, they'll pull the rug right out from under you very quickly. Don't do that. Social media can be good in a lot of places. You know, you get a bunch of followers, but always bring them back to your website, your website, your website. So I don't want to go too deep into technical of that. I used to build websites. I worked in tech for 15 years, more than 15 years, I think. Well, it doesn't matter. I built my own website on WordPress. I love WordPress. If you had like a slider or a slider, it would be cost versus easy of use. You know, WordPress is all the way over here, lower cost, but you need to know a lot of web development stuff, honestly. Like a lot of people will get into WordPress and just use a bunch of plugins and something will break. And it's like, can I call somebody to fix that kind of thing. Then there's other things. Squarespace is really good, high cost, ease of use is there as well. Wix, I hate Wix. But it's good. And in a lot of places, it's good. Like the newer version of Wix is really good. What else is out there? I'm trying to think of other platforms that are out there, but there's a ton of platforms where you can make your own website and just make it as a portfolio. And then eventually sell on that as well. But having your portfolio up there, I think, is really important too. And not that this way you're diversifying income. So definitely do the galleries. I'm going to show my hand, right? Definitely do galleries local. Get into your community, understand how to deal with galleries and talk to people, get your stuff out there in your local area, because if someone can see you in person and actually talk to you because you showed up at a First Friday or something like that, you're more often to sell that work and make a deeper connection with those people. It's like me talking to Matthew here and Doobie the Cat and other people that show up. This kind of connection is super important. I just started with Wix. Now it's fine. It's fine. I get very specific with it because of being a web developer, and they have an older version, and the way they build the site is not responsive to smaller. It's not as good, but then they have a newer version of that. Hopefully you're on the newer version. And it works really well. And it can be very extensible. They have all kinds of tools for selling and promoting and things like that. I just like having as much control as possible. And with WordPress, I can do that. But technical skill has to be up there too, honestly. It really does. I would say that probably the two best would be Squarespace and Wix. But Squarespace is a premium. It really is. It definitely is. There's also Square, not Squarespace, but Square. You know, the point of sale thing that you can get where you can sell in person. That's Square. They also offer websites where you can sell off their website too. So you can build that through Square. And that's kind of nice if you're like doing shows and things like, you know, what do they call that? Where you get a big white tent and you show up at, you know, places to put up your artwork in a tent and you sell that. Square and their website would be really helpful because it all kind of combines together, which is nice. I used to use WordPress and wanted to try something else. I did do some research and landed on Wix for now. Good. Yeah, I know you, Matt. I know you would probably do a bunch of research before you jump into anything. And if you don't want to do web development, which would sometimes I yell and scream at it because I spend too much time on WordPress, you know, trying to tweak something or fix something that's broken and it's really annoying. Wix or Squarespace, go for it. Because I kid you not, like I used to manage some of the websites, or at least one of the websites here, and they use Wix. And I could get in there in like 5 minutes, adjust things really quickly because after you know it, you get in there, you make adjustments and you know it's good, you know, that kind of thing. I almost dropped WordPress and I was like, I'm just going to pay for Squarespace or Wix or something. But I ended up not doing it because when you have close to 5,000 posts on your WordPress, moving from that platform to another platform it's impossible. It's impossible. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. It's too much data. Doesn't want to move. But that I think is the most important thing. Diversifying your income. Do the galleries. Yes, do the galleries. You know, do the social media how you like to do it on the platforms that you like. Like I'm on Facebook and Instagram right now, which I hate both of them. With a passion. I only post on there. Don't respond to people. Maybe I'll like some responses and things like that. But I hate everything Meta. They're a terrible company. It's my opinion, right? And the only reason I'm on there is because this community here is so connected with Facebook that's the only way that I can really connect with people locally all the time. Because if you're not somewhere doing something, you're basically invisible to everyone and they're expecting you, they think you're doing nothing, right? So if you're not constantly or consistently doing like a newsletter or doing a YouTube video or a post somewhere or showing what you're working on, you're out of their brain and they figure that you stop doing artwork altogether, you know, and that's where people's brains go. It's what happens. But I would, you know, 100%, as far as galleries are concerned, look for co-op galleries in your local area. See if there's any co-ops. If there are, and you have enough work that you want to show, get into it right away. Co-op galleries. If you only have the traditional galleries close to you, go talk to them. See what they're like. At least get out there, show your work, get involved with that community, learn how that communication works. I know a lot of artists like myself are very introverted in a lot of ways, and it's hard, but it can be so rewarding to do that. But don't just rely upon that. Diversify your income with a website, number one, and then other means of showing your artwork off and giving people places to give you money in some way. Oh, it's not live yet. Whenever it comes live, let us know here. Let me know. I want to see it. That'd be fantastic. I know your work. It's great. You got to show that stuff off, Matthew. You got great work. Definitely. And on your, like, I give everybody my website. I don't say, here's my Instagram, you know, like it's all to my website. And on Instagram, I'm like, here's my images, or on Facebook or Blue Sky and Kara, I'm like, here it is. But go back to my website in order to see the non-watermarked images are exactly what I'm doing, you know, that kind of thing, to buy my work, right? And I think that promotion, that selfless promotion, a lot of times it's hard for us to do. Like, we apologize for it. I'm sorry. And a lot of people hate when you sell to them as well. But there has to be a bit of that. Like, hey, here's how you can support me. If you like what I do, you know, do it. that kind of thing. And there's different levels. There's like and subscribe here is a form of supporting. And then the next level is subscribing to someone's newsletter. So you're actually giving a little bit of yourself, not just a like and subscribe. It's now, oh, they got my email and they can actually connect with me. And then after that, buying their painting or jumping on their Patreon, which is the next way to diversify your income. If you have something to share it like that and have some way for someone to buy you a coffee or give you Patreon access, that kind of thing. But diversifying in multiple different ways. And think about prints. I don't do prints. I dislike prints. Every time I try to do a print of all the paintings that I've done, they've just looked terrible. Even like the most expensive ones, like you put the real painting next to the print and it just never does it for me. Like, no. So I don't do prints. But the good idea about prints is it's a one-to-many transaction. With art itself, and I'm just talking to you now, I'm pretty much done with this painting. I think I'm going to call it done. But the problem with art is I'll do this painting once and I'll sell it once. And even though I've spent 7 days on this painting, and I don't know how many hours on this painting, probably 14 hours on this painting or more, I'll still have a very similar price as to all the other paintings I've done, right? Because you cannot price your paintings by how much time they take. Because tomorrow I'll start a new painting. It may take 2 hours. And, I'll make up for it if I sell that painting kind of thing. But it's a one-to-one transaction. It's always going to be one-to-one. So every hour you put into it will get like X out of it. And it's usually a lot less per hour than you need to survive, whatever that enough is. Remember, we talked about that. So if you can come up with ways where you can do something once and then it provides a multitude of continuous income. Prints are one way to do that. If you like prints, right? Prints are one way to do that. Multiple products printed, that kind of thing. Selling your time to people, selling, your knowledge to people, selling your entertainment to people, where you're doing the painting and you're making videos, and those can generate some income. And by the way, income on YouTube it's nothing. It's everybody thinks like, oh, I'm going to go make some money on YouTube. I'll give you an idea of how much money you make. If you have 100,000 followers, let's say, you're going to make $150 to $200 a month. 100,000 followers will only get, and it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're an artist, $150, $200. If you're in gaming, it'll be a lot more, right? Because they pay more for different types. But you think, oh, $200, that's not bad. The work you have to do to get 100,000 followers is ridiculous, right? Oh, like crazy ridiculous, number one. And think about that, like within practical means, $200 a month, that's like one bill, maybe, that you get paid. So that's kind of nice. It is some income. Like for instance, right now, I just passed 10,000 followers. I make $30 a month. $30 a month, right? Maybe at 100,000, I can make 300. Like if you do the math on that, right? But it doesn't work out that way. It's like 150 to 200. So it's another way to diversify my income, that kind of thing. My idea is I want to, and I'm creating videos, like teaching videos. They're going to be on my platform that I can sell the way that I want to sell them. And that's going to be my one-to-many, right? Also, I do small paintings. I enjoy small paintings. I can work, sometimes the paintings are only like 3 to 4 hours long. And then I sell those for a price that almost anybody could buy the paintings at. They're not expensive, $125 max, right? And that's my kind of like iteration. It's the way I like doing things. And it can help kind of not only getting a lot of information out there, but and like a consistent like video production, consistent newsletter production, consistent, posts and things like that, like always being in front of people. But it allows me to do what I like to do and sell at a very low price because I can do smaller paintings, a lot of them, but have a little bit more iteration through things, that kind of way. Definitely. Yeah, I think that might be everything. Streamers are propped up by sponsors. Those ad dollars will go away. They have before. I did my very first sponsorship recently, Phoenix Artist Oils, which is actually, I wouldn't have done it if the paint wasn't good. Phoenix Artist Oils. I got one here. Very comparable, almost exactly the same as Winsor Newton Winton. I really like the paints. They're actually good. Check out the review on that if you're interested in them. So about the same price and all this kind of stuff. I did 6 or 7 paintings before I, got enough information that I felt that I could actually show a video that had, enough information on that. I got a full set of paints, like 12 paints, which equals out to about like $35, and a big set of palette knives, which, these palette knives, I told them about this. These guys, they're beautiful palette knives, super flexible and awesome. Like the most flexible, amazing palette knives I've ever used. The handle's a little bit chunky, but I don't care about that. But these palette knives are fantastic with one huge flaw. Watch this. You know how, here, I'll give you an example. Like I got 2 palette knives the same size. Like, and this is the cheap one that you can buy at the store from Italy or whatever. Not near as flexible, but if I scrape into my palette, look at that nice scrape you get, right? Like that flat kind of scrape. These Phoenix palettes or palette knives, beautiful palette knives. Here's the flaw. Look at that. They don't sand down the edges. Oh, so sad. And it's both sides too. There's the other side. I'm like, and I said that on my video. I was like, please sand down these edges. Yeah, I'm like, probably at some point I'm going to get some 400 grit metal sandpaper and sand those down. And if I do, they'll be perfect palette knives. Yeah, but don't. If you get the Phoenix palette knives, which are nice, they sent me a whole set of 8 knives, all the different shapes and sizes. They're beautiful. I was like, these are gorgeous. Every single one of them, bumpy edges. Bumpy edges. I'm like, no, so close to the best. Oh, you sharpen yours on a stone. See, maybe I need to do that. Just go and sharpen them. But they're great. They're super flexible. And that's the main thing about palette knives. You want them to be super flexible so you can get in there with like little tiny areas, right? But I did that sponsorship. And I got free palette knives, 12, it was probably like $100 worth of materials, right? Which was nice. And they paid me $400 for the sponsorship, And the interaction was interesting too, because they said at the very beginning, and I like being as transparent as possible. They were like, if you don't like our paints, don't do the video. I mean, as a company, it makes sense. We don't want bad press out there. But at the same time, I was like, there's got to be like a ton of videos out there where people don't like it and they did the video anyways to get the money. But then if there's a bunch of products that don't have any videos, it's like maybe they got a lot of people that wanted to do them and they're like, this product sucks and I'm not going to do it, because you told me not to because, I don't like it. It's a terrible product. So, but I mean, if I put myself in their position, no, I couldn't do that. Like if I was like, hey, can you do a sponsorship on the Painter's Path about my learning platform? I would not tell them, if you don't like it, don't do a video. I would say, if you don't like it, still do the video. And I can't wait to watch it because I know proof everything on it that you say is wrong, right? That I can. I mean, if it's not subjective, right? But yeah, it's a little kind of a nefarious thing. But $400, yeah, it was good to have that. 7 paintings and all the work that I put into that video, I probably made like $3 an hour or something, maybe. I don't know. I haven't done the math on it, but it's probably around there. So I see a lot of look at Proco.com. I mean, he made it big on YouTube, and then did Proco itself, and then that expanded, into all this stuff. Like, that's one pathway. I love Nicholas Uribe. Look at his pathway, 60,000 people on YouTube but they were doing a video Monday through Friday for almost 2 years in a row straight. I mean, by the end of that, they were just destroyed, right? And then a year off or a year two off of that, and then created his Patreon thing where I think he's making really good money on that, which is fantastic. And I'm giving him money for it because it is fantastic. Yeah. And I think, he does really well. And he's the person that I'm following as far as the trajectory and pathway, that him and Danny took to get to where they're at. Because he went through the whole thing of selling in galleries and everything. And then all of a sudden, all that came out from under him because the gallery closed down, that kind of thing. And he's like, I got kids. How am I going to sell? Right. And so he diversified and 100% controls everything that he does now. Yeah. Okay. I think I've said a ton on this video. We went through a lot on this painting. And let's get honest with this real quick before I leave the stream. I don't know. Let me put it on 4K real quick. Oh, I'm stiff. There we go. So you're getting a bit more pixels now to you, which is good. So you can see a little bit more of the exactness of that painting, exactly where it's at. You're like, it was better when it was blurrier. Probably. Let's soften that edge real quick. I love the hand. I love the hand where it's at. I think that's really good. I like the fabric here. I think I did that well. I do like that I pushed myself to get rid of that face, but I don't think it looks good. I don't know. I think it would have been better, Doobie, if I did, like you were saying, like just waited and did some layering, some glazing on it. But that's not me as an artist. I couldn't do that. Honestly, if I wanted to go into glazing, I'm 100% honest here. If I went into glazing, I would go out and get acrylic paint right away. Just acrylic. Because I could sit here, well, not on this palette, because that's the big issue that I have with acrylic paint. Is like it would just dry on my palette like instantly, like here, and I would constantly pull and mix up, and I wouldn't be able to use a vertical palette. I have to get one of those stay wet palettes, where it keeps the paper wet that everything's on, and the paint will stay wet and you can work it for a while. And I did that with gouache for a while, and that was nice. But the great thing about acrylic is that ability to just layer, keep it all thin, and it just goes on, and like in an instant it's dry. You can have like a fan or something on it, or a hair dryer, and dry it really quick and go. And that I like that about acrylic. I think that's where acrylic excels tremendously. I don't think if you paint 100% opaque in acrylic, I don't like the way that paint looks. It's subjective, right? It's too plasticky. Yeah. Like years ago, back in 2016, I painted with a lot of like glazes, very subtle glazes. And it was a slow, methodic process, and I don't think I'm going to go for that again. I appreciate that you took a chance. Lesson learned. There's still so much good about this one. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Yeah. And I think it's important. It's just like we're talking about galleries and stuff. We're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. There's this big door in front of you and it has fear written on the front of it. Freaking open that door, kick it down and walk through it. That, like, the most important parts of your life and the bigger changes in your life are on the other side of that door. On the other side of hard conversations, or on the other side of pushing yourself into new areas. The biggest progress and the biggest changes and positivity in who you are as a person is through that doorway. Yeah. So I'm glad I pushed that. The painting looks a lot better in person, I have to say, and that's a good thing. I will tell you this before I leave, especially when we're talking about galleries and getting professional photos of your work. And one day maybe I'll bring up like how to do a dual polarization on cameras, like the camera that's behind me, so you don't get glare and blah, blah, blah. But if you do a painting and you take a photo of it and the picture, the photo of it, or the digital image looks better than the painting, that never feels good. Never feels good to me. I'm like, what happened? And you look back at the painting, you're like, no, it's not as good. But every single time that I take a photo of my work and the actual work looks better, I feel good. I feel good, right? I think, okay, that's good. But I've done a lot of paintings where the photo looks better and I'm like, ugh, I don't even want to show it. Don't even want to put it on my website, but I do anyways. I put everything up there. That's a good kind of heuristic to understand maybe if your work is good or not, whatever that means. It's so subjective. Okay. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Doobie. Thanks, guys, for being here. Appreciate you. Yeah. If you want to support me, chrisbevan.com for my website, made on WordPress, all by... Oh, OBS disconnect, reconnecting. Really? Are you sure? Feels like I'm still there. Like right at the end. Oh, it did reconnect. Okay, I'm back. Right at the end. Disconnect, reconnect. Weird. Okay. If you want to support me, go to my website, chrisbevan.com. You can buy my paintings there. You can see all of my daily art there. Sign up for my newsletter, like and subscribe on YouTube. That's the most minimal way you can support me. And then eventually I'll have my learning platform out. So that'll be another way to support me if you want, or just show up and chat, ask questions, please. That's good too. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.